Hey guys, so in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this Loomigurumi pie design, which was not designed by me. This was designed by Zimmy Looms on Instagram, and thank you so much Zimmy for letting me make a tutorial for this design. I have also taken ridiculously long to make the tutorial for this design. I believe Zimmy asked me if I could make this tutorial almost 2 years ago, and I just kept forgetting about this design. Also, there was a couple issues with this design that I believe when I talked to Zimmy the first time, they said I could alter a little bit. But it's all done now, and I really think this is super cute design, and I feel like this is like coming out around the perfect season because this is supposed to be like a slice of pie. I don't have any like colors to do right now, but before I made like a slice of pumpkin pie, and we're getting into like the fall pie season. I don't know, but I think this is a good time to put it out. And yeah, so thank you so much Zimmy for letting me make a tutorial for this design. I'm gonna leave Zimmy's Instagram, and I believe they have a YouTube channel down below so you can check out their stuff. They make a lot of amazing designs, and yeah. So what else do I have to say? So this design is definitely not an easy design. I wouldn't consider it easy. It's definitely a little bit more of a challenging design. Generally with Loomigurumi, like once things are not very round, they tend to be a little bit harder. And this design is a literal like triangle, well, pie shaped, I guess. And it is a little bit harder because of that. It's not extremely difficult, it's just there's a lot of attaching, and I know for a lot of beginners attaching is often the hard part, so just be aware that this design has a lot of attaching. It isn't too bad and it's totally doable, and I don't think it's the hardest design on my channel, but it is a little bit more of a tricky design. But honestly, I really love this design. I think it's adorable, and yeah, you should definitely make it. So band wise, I don't know how many bands this pie takes. I haven't counted yet. But if you want to know the band count, you can check down in the description below, and I'll have the band count, the pattern, and all of that in the description. But yeah, also I just want to point out that if you don't have peach for like the pie crust, because I also didn't have like a tan color for the pie crust like I did over here, I've discovered that the pastel orange jelly works perfectly for a pie crust, especially if you're like making a key lime pie. We got some lemon pie over here. Today I am going to be doing a similar thing with the colors. I'm going to be using this peach color for the crust, and then, or like the pastel orange, and then for the pie I'm going to be doing blue today. No reason for that, it's just, I didn't have any other good pie colors, so we're making a blue pie. And yeah, I think that's about it. So of course for this design you're going to want to get whatever colors you need. Like I already showed you the colors I'm using. You're also going to need a hook. I'm going to be using my double-ended hook today. You do not need a double-ended hook. You just need any kind of hook. That could be a Rainbowloom hook, plastic hook, crochet hook, just something you can loom with. You're also going to want a C-clip to mark where your rows start and end. I thought I had a C-clip. Oh, here we go. C-clip. You're also going to want some eyes if you want to do eyes, some bands for the cheeks. I'm going to be using these eyes today. They are 4mm round beads. I just got them from Amazon. If you search 4mm round plastic beads, they should come up. And the very last thing you're going to need is some stuffing. So I think that is about it, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Yeah. I just feel like I'm forgetting something. I feel like every time I don't film a tutorial for a while, I always come back and I'm like, I'm forgetting something, aren't I? But I'm not. At least I hope I remembered everything in that intro. I'm gonna watch it back later and be like, oh my god, I forgot the thing. No, not actually. But yeah. So we're gonna be starting with the top of the pie. So this bit like this, we're gonna start making this top triangle. So you're gonna want to get whatever color you want for the main bit of your pie. Oh, also one last note that I know you noticed, but I was struggling to figure out the whipped cream, but this is the final version of the whipped cream, and I still feel like it could be a little bit better, but I decided to make the tutorial anyways, and if I find a better way to make the whipped cream later, I'm just gonna make another video just fixing the whipped cream. But yeah, I think it still looks good. That was the only other note. Yeah, so you just want to get whatever bands, and we're gonna get started. Also, even though some of you don't enjoy my yapping, I'm gonna yap. I don't know why I focused so much on that one comment I got about me being a yapper. I think I find it more, like, kind of funny than anything else. Like, I'm not offended by it, but I just think of it every time I start talking in a video now. But I'm actually filming this on my birthday, so I'm turned 24 today. I'm pretty old. But I had time to film, and I was like thinking of what I want to do on my birthday, and I was like, I kind of just want to have a day off. And yes, making a tutorial counts as a day off for me, because I'm just basically not doing homework, which is all I really wanted, because I'm always doing so much homework. Anyways, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. We are gonna start by doing something. Hold up. Okay, we're gonna start with a tripled cap band with 2 stitches in it. Also, this design is made a little differently than any other design, because instead of going like in a circle, we're gonna be kind of like going to one side, turning, and then going to the other side, turning, and we're kind of make the pie like this. It'll make a lot more sense once we start doing it, but just this is a little bit different than some other designs. That was such a long intro, I'm so sorry. Anyways, triple cap band. So just wrap a band 3 times around your hook, like that, and then we're gonna pull a band through, put both ends back on our hook, push the back one over the front one. So that's 1 stitch in the cap band. Like I said, we need 2, so we're gonna go ahead and go back in, and we're gonna do 1 more single stitch, like that. So we have 2 stitches in the cap band. And now what we're gonna do, and what we're gonna be doing for a lot of this design, is we're gonna be turning, and all that basically means is, like, as you can see, we're facing this way. We're now gonna turn so we face this way. I kind of didn't even turn my hand for this one. Sometimes you will want to like turn the whole thing, but we're at the start, so I can kind of just turn and like just flip this little piece. And you can tell if you've turned because as you can tell right now, the loops are going this way and following with the hook. So we're gonna turn so we're going against the loops. And we're gonna go back into this loop here, and we're gonna do an increase. Like that. So now we're gonna turn again. So we're gonna go facing this way. And we are going to do 2 single stitches, just because we're at 3 loops right now if we count. So if we count, we should have 1, 2, 3. And this is also a bit that's challenging, and sometimes it's hard to see your loops, but I can tell I have 2, 3 loops. And just make sure you don't miss any. But we're gonna do a row of single stitches. So we'll just put 1 stitch in each loop. Like that. Now we're gonna turn again. And we are going to do, we're going to do a single stitch, and then on this last loop here, we're going to do an increase. So we're going to do 1 single stitch, and then on this last loop, we're going to do an increase. So all an increase is you put 2 stitches in the 1 loop. So we went ahead and we put 1 stitch in, we're gonna go back in and do another stitch. Like that. And then that's it for this row. And if we count now, we should have 4 loops, so we can count 1, 2, 3, 4. And now once again, we're gonna turn. And we're gonna do the exact same thing we did last row kind of, but this time we're gonna do 2 single stitches, and then again on this last one here, we're gonna do an increase. So we're gonna go ahead and go 1, 2, and then once again on this last loop we're going to do an increase. So, oops. Like that. So now we should be at 5 loops, so we're going to count to make sure we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry if it seems like I'm going a little fast too. I'm trying to go slow, but this is just a reminder that you guys can always pause my videos, rewind them to see whatever you need. I know it seems like, I feel like I'm going fast, but we're also not very big yet, so it's kind of easy to just go fast. But once again, we're going to turn so we're facing this way. We're going to go ahead and turn so we're facing this way. And this time we're going to do 2 rows of single stitches. So we're just going to do 2 rows doing 1 stitch in every loop. And 1 row will be this way, we get to the end, we turn, then we come back this way, and then that'll be 2 rows. Hopefully you guys kind of get how the rows are working. Like I said, this design is made a little bit different because like I said, we're going like back and forth instead of in a circle. But I think it's not too confusing. I feel like I have so much energy today because I'm kind of excited because it's my birthday. Yeah. I don't know where that was going with that. I just feel very happy, I guess. Anyways, so we're gonna go ahead and do the 2 rows of single stitches. So we'll just get started. And we're just putting 1 stitch in every loop until we get to the other side. So we're almost there already. And now that we went to this side, we're gonna go ahead and turn and head back, and then that'll be our second row. I'm sorry I stopped talking. It's because I heard my camera making a tiny noise and I was like, what is that? But I don't know if that's the autofocus, but I don't think so. It also could just be moving the table. Anyways, that's 2 rows of single stitches. So we did 1 row going this way, and now we did 1 row going back this way. And if we count, we should still be at 5 loops. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once again, so that was it for this bit. And your pie should be looking a little something like this. You should have a little triangle. But what we're gonna do now is we are going to do kind of what we did before, where we're gonna be increasing on the last loop of every row. So once again, we're facing this way, we're gonna turn so we face the other way. And we're just gonna do single stitches until we get to this last loop here, and then we're gonna do an increase. I don't know why, but I totally like spaced out for those 2 rows. I say this all the time in my tutorials, and I'm really trying to come back to my channel. I actually have a video I'm gonna post. I don't know if it'll be posted before or after this video. Just talking about my channel and stuff, because I'm gonna try to make an active effort to come back, but every time I don't film a tutorial for a while and I come back, I'm like, what was I doing? Am I like forgetting something? Like I need to be more on top of things. But anyways, so I'm just doing single stitches until I get to the last stitch, and then once I get to the last stitch, I'm gonna go ahead and do an increase. And all an increase is, in case you need a reminder, is we are just putting 2 stitches in this last loop. So now if we count, we should be at 6 stitches. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that was 1 row increasing on the end, and now we're gonna turn and do that again. So we're gonna do single stitches, and then once we get to the last loop, we'll do an increase. So we're just doing nothing but single stitches. And then once again right here on this last loop, we'll go ahead and do an increase. Like that. So now if we count, we should have 7 loops. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's it for that bit. Don't pull your hook out. I did that on accident. But what we're gonna do now is we are going to do 2 rows of single stitches. So we're just doing 2 rows normal, single stitches. At the end of each of these 2 rows, we should still be at 7 loops. And this is actually the last rows for the top part of the pie. You know, after I made the pie the second time to make sure I had the pattern correct and like write it down, I noticed that this design kind of comes together pretty quickly, in my opinion. I don't know. I remember when I made it the first time, I felt like I feel like it took forever, but then this time it kind of came together really quickly. Anyways, we're just gonna do 2 rows of single stitches, and we're turning at the end of the rows like we've been. So this is row 1 for me. And make sure you don't forget the loops on the edge. Sometimes they hide, but just make sure you're getting them all. Then once again, once we get to the end, we're gonna turn, go back the other direction, so this will be row 2. Almost there. And then once you finish this row, you should still be at 7 loops, and like I said, this is the last one, so we can count real quick just to make sure we did everything correctly. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna turn, and we're gonna tie off in this loop here. So we're just gonna pull a band through everything on our hook, push the back one over the front one, and pull tight. So we're just gonna tie this off. And then this will be the top part of our pie. And I know it looks a little bit skin and thinny, right? What did I say, skin and? I meant to say thin and skinny. I just mixed those up right now, but it does get, we're gonna do a little bit more to it so it'll get to the proper shape. I was iffy when I first made this too. I was like, that looks a little thin, but it ends up working out. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna start, I feel like I'm moving so fast. Anyways. my mind is always everywhere. Anyways, but we're gonna start working on the sides of the pie. So yeah, we're still working in our pie color, and we're gonna start doing the sides. Hold up, I'm gonna check something real quick. So we're gonna do the sides. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna start at the back here, so on the whitest part, not at the tip, and we are just gonna do single stitches along the side here. I don't have an exact number. Oh, I do. Okay, so we're gonna stitch 9 times down the side here. I wasn't sure if I had an exact number or not, but apparently I did. So we're just gonna do 9 single stitches down the side. Basically how I do it though is you just wanna put enough stitches so you don't have any gaps. So, kind of just going along the side here. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And see, this is the kind of the hard part, is you want to do like about 9 stitches, but you don't want to like crowd them too much, because now I have like too many stitches back here and I probably need like 2 more stitches up here. So if you run into this issue, you can just kind of undo them and go back, and if your stitches are too crowded at any point, you can just go ahead and just take that one out and then re-loop them. That. So now we're at 7, so this will be 8. And then I usually put 9 in the cap band. So we're gonna go back through this cap band and then do another stitch. But it'll be a part of this. So all we did right now is we just single crocheted, I almost said single crochet, I don't know where that came from. We just did single stitches down the side, and if we count now, we should be at 9 loops. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And what we're gonna do now is we are gonna turn, so we're facing this way, we're gonna turn so we're facing the other way. And we are going to do what I like to call a sort of half row, where we're gonna only be grabbing the inner half of all the loops. So instead of going through the whole loop like this, we're only gonna go through the front part of the loop and make a stitch on that. And I'll show you again in the next stitch because it might be easier to see because it's not so tight, but basically, instead of going through the whole loop, we're just gonna go through this first part and then make a stitch like that. And we're gonna do that all the way down the side. And I need to pick up more bands. Okay. Here we go. It's kind of so hard to show you what I'm doing because this is kind of an awkward row to do. But all we're doing is doing single stitches, and we're only grabbing the inner half of each loop. I'm sorry, I got so focused there I nearly lost my train of thought. And if you're confused with what I'm doing, I'm trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing, so hopefully you can just watch and see. Are we already at the end? Oh, we are. I feel like we need one more stitch here, but we don't. Okay, sorry, I had to check the pattern because I was like, that's a suspicious amount of space at the edge here, but I already had it sorted out. Sometimes I just really need to trust my patterns. But once you do, what were we doing? Oh, once you finish doing single stitches, only grabbing the inner loop to the edge, we're once again gonna turn, and what we're gonna do is on this first loop here, we're gonna do an increase. So on the first loop, we're gonna go ahead and do an increase. Like that. And then it's gonna be single stitches the rest of the way. So we're just gonna do single stitches all the way until we get to the end. And I know I kind of technically forgot to count on that last row, but if you counted, you should still have been at 9 loops. I just feel like with designs like this, it's not so crucial, I guess, if you count, because it's kind of more, I don't know, it's different than like when you make it where you're just making like a round thing. Like when you stitch stuff up like this, I often really do forget to count. Anyways. So if we count now, I believe we should be at 10 loops. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What happened to 10? Okay, so I fixed it. So basically what happened was, and the reason why I had 9 instead of 10, which is always why it's important you count. After I went on a rant about how I don't count with these designs, I know. I basically accidentally slip stitched at the first one here, so I lost the loop. So I had to go back, undo everything, and fix it. So that's one of the important reasons why we count. But after you do that row, your pie should be looking a little something like this, and you can see that this side already kind of wants to go down and look pie-like. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna just do 2 rows of single stitches. So we're just gonna go back and forth for 2 rows. So we're gonna go this way 1 row, this way to the edge, that's 1 row. Gonna come back to this side, that'll be 2 rows. And then that's pretty much it for this side of the pie crust. And we do have to repeat this entire thing on the other side. And I'm not gonna show you the same thing on the other side. I'm just gonna expect you to rewind this video and then do it again. But that's okay. You know, I get comments sometimes that are like, why do you leave your mistakes in the video? You messed me up. But honestly, I leave them in because sometimes it's like, I can tell you how to fix the mistake if you make the mistake. Or, I don't know, I I think it's helpful sometimes to leave mistakes, and especially when they're not like really bad mistakes. Like that mistake was actually a mistake I made. Like I told you all the instructions correctly. When I did that stitch, I just accidentally slip stitched instead of doing a single stitch. So that's why I left this mistake in, was just because it wasn't like a, oh my god, I've ruined the design mistake. If I ever do one of those, I do actually fix the tutorial. But this mistake was more of a, oops, I kind of just messed up mistake. So yeah, in case you're ever curious. I really think this is such a cute design. When Zimmy originally asked me to make the tutorial for this, I was like, oh my god. I was like so excited because I was like, this is such a cute design and I know so many people will love it. And then it just took me so long to make the tutorial. I've been bad about stuff like that, but I'm gonna try to be better. But yeah, I just feel like this is also like such, I feel like I mean, pie slices can be for any season, but we're gonna hold the thought while I do instructions. But that was the end of the first row, so we just did one row of single stitches. So now I'm gonna turn and I'm gonna go ahead and do the second row. If you want, you could count to make sure you still have 10 loops, but I'm just gonna go ahead and keep going. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do the second row of single stitches. What was I saying? I was ranting about pie. I don't know, I just think that pie, like pumpkin pie, like this design is such a fall design because, I don't know, pumpkin pies, I always just think of like Thanksgiving because that's when everyone eats pumpkin pie. Also, I know some people don't like pumpkin pie, but I mean, some people don't like a lot of things. Anyways, pumpkin pie is just so good. It really is. I did accidentally increase on the end here. I thought I did. Why did I do that? Anyways. I'm doing a lot of accidental stitches today. I had an accidental increase right here. I was looking at it through the camera and I was like, that doesn't look right. And it was once again just me making a mistake. What was I saying? I was ranting about pumpkin pie. I was saying something about pumpkin pie. But, yeah. I just feel like this is such a fall design, so I'm kind of putting it out at the perfect time because we're starting to get into fall. Honestly, it's been slightly colder where I live. I mean, it's my birthday, so September 29th when I'm filming this, but so it's like starting to be fall and I am not ready for the winter. I'm not ready for the cold. I think I've said this before, but I don't do well in the cold. So the second it starts getting like even slightly colder, I'm like, no, please. I love the warm, even though it's been like really nice days where I live and it's been good, but I'm not ready for summer to be over yet. I guess I'll just have to cope with the fact that summer's over by making Halloween designs and fall designs. I guess, no, I mean, I don't know, just being silly. Anyways, after you have done 2 rows of single stitches, your pie should be looking something like this. And if you count, you should still have 10 loops. And I'm going to count because I keep doing accidental stitches. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to actually redo this last stitch just so we tie it off right here on the last one. So I undid my last stitch I did for this last loop. I'm going to redo it as a slip knot. So we're just going to pull the band through everything, push the back one over the front one and pull tight. And then that'll be it for this side. So like I said, we have to do this exact same thing we did on this side on the other side. And rather than make this tutorial ridiculously long where I do both sides on camera, I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera and do the other side. And then I will show you what to do next. Okay, so once you finish doing both sides of your pie, it should look something like this. So it'll not be tied together. You'll have some loose loops, but should be looking like this. Also, before we get into how to finish this piece up, I just want to mention, in case you want to just pause the video and continue, but the bottom of the crust is made exactly the same as the top of the pie. So instead of refilming me do that, I've decided to ask you to rewind the video and then just repeat how we made the top of the pie, but this time do it in your crust color. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video and make that real quick, you can, but once you do that, we have all the parts to assemble our pie. So we're gonna start assembling. But yeah, the bottom part, and I have the pattern in the description in case you wanna just follow the pattern, but it's exact same as the top, just we do it in the crust color. Anyways, we are gonna go ahead and finish putting this together. So I'm just picking up a few bands. I don't know why I picked up so many blue bands. We literally don't need that many. So to finish up the pie, piece, all I do is I just tie this front bit together, and I usually don't do more than just tying it together twice. Usually twice is all you need. At least for me, I haven't had to tie it more times than like twice. I also leave all my tails hanging out until I finish this guy, and then I tuck them all in. But we're just gonna do 2 stitches to tie together the front right here. It's kind of hard for me to see what I'm doing, but hopefully it's fine. And it's fine, I think. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the top part of the pie, and now we are going to stitch on the crust piece to the bottom. So you're going to want to pick up a few of your crust color bands, and not a few, actually, quite a bit, because we're going to stitch them together. And I know it might look chaotic with all these tails sticking out, but I really don't like tucking anything into the end, just so that way if I want to fix something, I know where the end is and I can like undo it and redo it a lot easier. But to do the top and the bottom together, all we're gonna do is we are gonna hold these 2 next to each other, and you're gonna wanna line them up so they kind of line up. And you're gonna go through this piece, like a piece of the crust, and then you're gonna go through one of the loops on the edge of the pie, and we're just gonna make a stitch. So you'll pull a band through, both ends back on your hook, and then push the back one over the front one. And we're just gonna kind of do that for all the loops. So we'll go through part of the crust, then we'll go through part of the pie, and stitch them together. And then we'll just push this back loop over the front loop, so we're kind of chaining them all together too. So it kind of, if you just hold it up next to it, it kind of lines up next to the loops you need to tie it to. So I usually just go by that. And I'm trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing, because this is kind of something that's hard to explain, and it's better if you just see it. At least that's what I think. I'm sorry, I was just checking to see where I'm at, because it gets kind of hard to see at the end because of how, I mean, obviously the pie goes to a tip, so once you get to like skinnier areas, in general it gets kind of hard to see, but I'm just doing the same thing of stitching these guys together. Always a great time when you forget how you did the front. Hold up, I'm just checking. Yeah. So you can go through the cap band for this one if it looks like it's not going to line up right. So you can go through the cap band and then one of the loops. And then stitch together. And then we basically just keep going around, and now we do this side. So I did go through the cap band here just because it looked like it would line up nicer. So I went through the cap band, went through part of the pie, and now I'm just going to continue going along the loops, doing the same thing. Now you think that this part really, it's just easier if you just like hold them next to each other and don't overthink about what you're tying together. You just gotta trust the process. At least that's what I'm doing, because it's kind of hard to see with this camera, so I'm just trusting the process and hoping that when I finish him he'll look beautiful. If it doesn't, it's gonna be embarrassing. I always feel so much more pressure for things to turn out good when I'm making tutorials, because like obviously if I'm not on camera and it doesn't turn out good, I mean I could burn this footage, but if I'm not on camera and it doesn't turn out good, it's just like whoops, oh well. But whenever I'm like making a tutorial, I'm like, oh, it has to be right. I had a thought about something else I was gonna say real quick, and now I've completely forgot whatever that thought was. It was completely off topic, but it was something and I don't remember it now. Yeah, I was trying to think of what I was gonna say, but it's just not here. Anyways, we're almost at the end. So once you get to the end, you're gonna do this last stitch and then you're gonna want to tie it off. And what I'm actually gonna do, because this tie is right here, is I'm gonna untie this and then retie it so that way this loop is in this tie, just because it's always better if you can possibly make yourself less tails to tuck. But if you didn't have a tail here to like untie and then like add this to, you would just tie a new slip knot. Anyways, now you can kind of push the crust like outwards if it's not going out, especially on the tip here. Sometimes it's a little finicky, but if you just pull it, it'll be fine. Like that. And now we have our pie on our crust. So what we need to do now actually is stuff him. So we're gonna want to get whatever you want for stuffing. I always use cotton balls and I have one cotton ball right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tear it up and stuff him. And yeah, believe it or not, we're already almost done with this pie. I feel like this design, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like it comes together really, really quickly. Like once you have all the parts made, you just like throw it together. And then it's good. I really like this design. This is such a fun design. Zimmy did such a good job. Okay. So what we're gonna do now, and the very last bit of the pie we have to do that you've probably noticed, is this back bit. So we're just gonna make the crust. And the way we do this is we are going to just grab the inner part of these loops on the bottom here. We do have this like awkward tied off section, so we'll get to that when we get there, but we're just gonna do like a half row again. Ooh, I just whacked the camera with my hook. Where we only grab like the inner part of each of these loops. Ooh, my camera, I need to change the camera battery real quick. Hold up. Okay, we have a new battery. Okay. So we're only gonna, my camera would focus. Okay. We're only gonna grab the inner half of each of these loops, and we're just gonna stitch across. And once again, we're just doing single stitches, and we're only grabbing the inner part of these loops. And for this mess, I'm just gonna find whatever looks like the inner part. Yeah. If you have a weird slip knotted bit, just single stitch around it. Oops, sorry. So I just single stitched around where did like a half row around where the slipknot band was. And I'm sorry, I'm reading. And now that we've done this, we're gonna do 7 rows of single stitches. And I don't really have a number for how many it is across the back here, but honestly, as long as you've got about, I'd say like 8, like how many loops are it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, as long as you have about 8 loops. If you have 9, you'd probably also be okay. I think 7 would be a little too less. But if you've got like 8 to 9 loops on the back here, you're good to do the crust. But all we're gonna do now is we are going to do 7 rows of single stitches, just going back and forth like we've been, just to get this back piece long enough so we can tie it up. But we're just gonna do 7 rows of single stitches. And at the end of each of these rows, you should have the same number of loops that you had at the start. So for me, that would be 8. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And believe it or not, after we finish this piece and tie it up, our pie is done. And we just have to put the little whipped cream on the head. I feel like the whipped cream could be better. Like, I decided to make this design and like just do the tutorial because I'm like, oh my god, it's been 2 years. I need to stop being super picky with this design, especially because it looks cute. It's just some part of my brain is like, the whipped cream could be a little bit cuter. I don't know. I don't know. And this is 100% just like a me being picky thing. Like, I don't think the whipped cream looks bad on this guy. I just feel like it could be more swirly, but I just haven't figured out how to do that yet. So I'm just gonna post this tutorial, and if I figure out how to do a better way to do whipped cream between now and, I don't know, ever, I'll just make a new tutorial just for the whipped cream. But I still think this design looks adorable, and I think I'm being picky. I'm also so excited it's Halloween season. Around when I'm filming this, it's like end of September. Like I said, it's my birthday today, so September 29th. And I'm excited to make Halloween designs. This, I think it's so obvious that I love Halloween on this channel because we have so many Halloween designs, and that is because I love Halloween. I think it's such a fun holiday. Like, you just dress up, eat candy, be silly. Like, it's not that serious. I don't even really like horror movies or anything like that. I just like how fun Halloween is. So I think I love this holiday. This is like the one holiday I'm not a big holiday person, but Halloween's like the one holiday I can get behind. I know I have a lot of Christmas designs too, but I'm actually not a big fan of Christmas. It's just, I know people love Christmas, so I make some designs for you guys, but I think Halloween's definitely my favorite. And I got some good suggestions for some loom designs that I'm actually like very excited to try to make, so I'm gonna be doing that over the next couple weeks, and I'm hoping to put at least 2 Halloween tutorials out this year. That is my goal, that before Halloween on this channel we will have 2 new Halloween designs. If we don't, I will be sad, and I will 100% blame school, and it probably will be school's fault, but that's okay. Anyways, I'm gonna go off camera and I'm gonna do all 7 rows. I actually think, I know I only have 8 stitches, but I think for this pie, and this is kind of the hard part, sometimes your pies, just because of how it's made, will end up a little bit wider, and you might want to make the crust a little bit wider than 8 loops, and you can kind of see here how like it's gonna be a little short, so I might undo this and go back and just like either increase here or something just to make it a little longer. And if you're having the same issue on your pie, and I'm sorry if you didn't realize it till now and you have to undo a little bit, it's just kind of how it is. So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna undo and then fix it, but basically just come back and I'll show you how to attach the crust when you have 7 rows of single stitches after that first like half row-ish thing we did. So you would have had the first row where we like stitch across the back, only grabbing the inner half of the loops. Then you'll do 7 rows of single stitches, and then you'll come back and I'll show you how to attach the crust. Hopefully we're all good. Okay, so once you finish all 7 rows, it should look a little something like this. You should basically just have a giant flap coming off the back of your pie. But once you finish, you're just going to want to turn, go into the first loop and tie off. So just do a slip knot to tie off. And all we're going to do now is we are just going to fold this up and attach it to the back of our pie. And it's pretty easy to attach because you kind of just push it up and then tie it. I also remembered the thing I was gonna say, so while I pick up bands really quickly, I totally burnt my finger. I'm taking a metals art class, so I'm making like kind of like jewelry with metal, but I absolutely ruined, you can kind of see that this finger looks a little funky. Absolutely ruined this finger because I touched my piece right after I had like warmed it up with fire. And it's just been weird because like I do stuff sometimes and like I can't really feel things. Like I can feel my finger, but like if you just touch the skin, I can't really feel it. I don't know. It wasn't that bad of a burn, but it's just weird because I assume once it's healed it'll be fine, but like right now I can't feel a lot of things with my finger, so I'm looming and it's kind of weird because I can't feel it. I don't know. Anyways, we're just gonna attach the back and the pie together. And very similar to before, I'm also doing this with the crust color. You're just gonna go through part of your pie, go through part of the back, and then just tie together. I also really don't ever have to like tie it more than twice. Usually twice is good enough. And then I do also tie it 2 times, just this to the back. And also, you want to tie it low enough so you have a little bit extra to fold this over. Actually, maybe we fold this over first. So you're gonna want to get this top bit that's like the extra, and you're just gonna fold it over and down. And I usually only tie this once in the middle. But you're just gonna fold it over and you're gonna tie the top piece to the back piece wherever it lands. Just so that way you have like a thicker part of the crust. Actually, I'm gonna have to tie this one twice, so we'll tie it down over here as well. Oh, ow, that snapped. But you just fold it over and then tie it down. Like that. So now we have a crust, and it kind of looks messy right now because of all the tails, but once we tuck it in, it'll look good. But you want to tie your pie to the crust on the back here as well, and once again, we just tie it twice. You can kind of hide that tail in already, but I like to make sure it's in the spot I want it. Go through part of this, go through part of the back of the crust, and just tie it together. If I would stop snagging things, that'd be great. And we're still using the crust color, just because that way if it shows up on the other side of the crust, you can't see it. If I was using a blue band and it showed up on the other side, it would look really bad. Just like that. And now you're gonna wanna look at your pie, and it should look like it's together, and it should be together, but you have all these tails sticking out. And at this point, if there's nothing you wanna fix, we can go ahead and hide all these tails. And you just do that by like just pulling them to the inside of the creation. And this guy's pretty big, so it's not like extremely hard to hide the tails. Hiding tails in like tinier loom designs is such a pain, but with this one I haven't had like, I don't find hiding all these tails super annoying because of how big it is. It's pretty easy to just pull them in and they kind of get lost in there, and then you don't have to worry about them. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause this and hide all the tails because we have a lot and it's gonna take me a second. But all we're doing is just pulling these to the inside so we can't see them. And then I'll show you how to do the whipped cream and the face, and I think we're about done. So just one note, I've noticed that sometimes for some reason, whatever reason with the sign, there will end up being a giant hole right here by the, like literally in the top corner by the crust. And if that happens, I don't know how to avoid it, but an easy fix if you end up with a giant hole right here for some reason is just to take a band and tie it shut. Pretty much immediately fixes it. I don't have as big of a hole on this side, but on the other side I had a giant hole right there. And I just tied it shut and you can't even tell. So now we have our pie, but it is very naked and it needs whipped cream. So we're gonna go ahead and do that real quick. So get whatever color you want for your whipped cream, which will probably be white. I'm doing mine white. And we're gonna flip to where I wrote the whipped cream instructions. But all we're gonna do is on the top of the pie, pretty much dead center, because that's where I want to put my whipped cream or wherever you want to set it. We are gonna stitch 7 times in a circle on top here. So we're, like I said, just pick where you want the whipped cream. And then just stitch 7 times in a circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, so we need 3 more stitches. And you can do what I did, where if you're not sure how many times you stitch, you can just count and then see how many stitches you're at. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So cool, I'm at 7 stitches. So once you've stitched 7 times in a circle, you'll go back through the first loop. You should also be around where you started because you're going in a circle. But you're gonna go into the first loop, you're gonna make a stitch, and we're gonna go ahead and put a C-clip on this one. And it's kind of crazy that this is the first time we're using a C-clip in this design, but because of how it's made, you don't really need a C-clip. And now what we're gonna do is we are going to increase every other, so we're just gonna alternate between doing increases and single stitches. So this one will be our single stitch. So the next one will be an increase, so we'll put 2 stitches in this loop. And we'll do a single stitch. Then we'll do an increase. Then we'll do a single stitch. We increase. And then I ran out of bands on my finger then, but out of habit I just like stabbed my finger for a band. But there was none. So the last increase is gonna land on the one with a C-clip on it, but we're not gonna do the increase, we're just gonna do a single stitch. And we'll move our C-clip up. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to decrease every other. So literally the thing we just did, we're gonna do the same thing but with decreases. So this first one again will count as our single stitch, so the next one's gonna be a decrease. And I just realized we haven't covered what a decrease is in this video, so I'm gonna show you in the next one. But we're gonna do a single stitch. And then in the next one here will be our decrease, so we grab the inside part of one loop, back part of the next loop, and then make a stitch. And we just keep doing this all the way around. So we do a single stitch, and then we do a decrease, and then we do a single stitch. And our last decrease is once again gonna end on the one with a C-clip on it. We're gonna go ahead and do that decrease. And we can actually take the C-clip out at this point. So we're gonna go ahead, do the decrease on the one that had the C-clip on it. And I believe now we're just gonna decrease till close. So we're just gonna decrease every single stitch until we can't decrease anymore. So every single stitch we do is gonna be a decrease. And I know it's hard to see what I'm doing, but that's just because it's very tiny. But once you have the last decrease you can possibly do up on your hook, you're just gonna pull a band through everything, push the back one over the front one and pull tight. And then we'll just hide the tail in the whipped cream. Then you can kind of squish the whipped cream in a certain direction, so it's got kind of a little swoop. At least that's what I have found cute to do, so that way it has some movement and isn't such a white blob on top of this pie. You could also make your whipped cream bigger or smaller if you want, but I found that this is in my opinion, the perfect whipped cream size. So the very last thing we have to do, if you want it, is you can put a face on your pie. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I do my faces really quickly. If you don't have beads for eyes, you could always use a black band or a different colored band. I'm using these 4mm, like I mentioned, round beads. I just got them off of Amazon. I just searched it up. Or you could use a band that is wrapped 4 times around your hook, and you can pull a band through and it'll work the same as the bead. But I'm gonna go ahead and get my beads onto bands. So we'll just go ahead and put our bead on a piece of string, then we'll put our band, and then you fold back over, go back through, you just slide it on. Repeat that for the other eye. And once you have your eyes, you're gonna want to pick what side you want your face on. I want the face to be on this side. And we'll just tie these in. And if you were using bands, it would work the exact same way. So you just tie it in. Once again, I think it's not a good idea to tuck the tails until you're happy with where both eyes are, just because sometimes one will come out crooked, and it's easier to redo if the tails are sticking out. Okay, so once you're happy with where the eyes are, go ahead and tuck in the tails. I'm tucking mine on off camera because I struggle to tuck tails in on camera. His eyes are still kind of a little crooked, but it's okay. And if you want cheeks on your pie, just get 2 bands in whatever color you want your cheeks in. I'm using Sweet's Pink. And come right under the eye. Or as close to right under the eye as you can. And you're gonna pull a band through, push the back one over the front one, and just pull it tight enough so it doesn't unslip. And then hide the tail. And that'll be a cheek. And you're just gonna repeat that on the other side. Like that. So if you wanted to do the mouth like I did, all you're gonna do is you're gonna take a black band, cut it, and then what I do is I use hot glue, and you're gonna take a drop of hot glue, set it on, like put the drop on the loom creation, and then you just set the mouth gently on top. I know I didn't show you how to do that in this tutorial just because it's a lot of setup and waiting, and I also think I would burn myself. And as you can tell based on my metals injury, I think we've had enough burns. So I'm gonna go ahead and just leave it like this for now. Leave it here. I always leave my tutorials here. But if you do want to know how to see how I do the mouths, I have a Loomigurumi basics video, the updated one, where I show you how I glue my mouths on. But yeah, I think that is it for this tutorial. I hope your pie turned out good. If you make this design, definitely share it with me. I would love to see it. And tag Zimmy too, because this is Zimmy's design. I'm just making the tutorial and I contributed a little bit, but thank you so much, Zimmy, for once again letting me film this and being very patient with me, because it took me like 2 years to film this tutorial. And yeah, I hope your pie turned out good. Like I said, share them with me, and I think that's it. I don't really have any designs to show you what's coming, but I promise you new designs are coming. You can follow me on Instagram if you want to see what I'm up to. I post a lot of what I'm doing in school and just art stuff. And I'm also going to start posting maybe some Halloween designs that are coming, so maybe check that out. And yeah, subscribe if you want to see what tutorials are coming up. But I think that's it for this video. Thank you guys for keeping me company on my birthday. I actually filmed a tutorial today because it's been this is a little bit of a rambly bit at the end, but I don't even care. But I've been keeping it a little bit of a tradition to have no homework on my birthday and just do whatever I want to do on this day. I've been doing that the past couple years that I've been in school, because I feel like every time I'm in school, homework takes over and it's like all I do every day. So I just let myself do whatever I want on my birthday, and I just really wanted to film today because I do miss doing this a lot. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.